Good day! Today, we are going to talk about tropical cyclone and extratropical cyclone. To start with, let us define tropical cyclone. A tropical cyclone is an intense circular storm that originates over warm tropical oceans and is characterized by low atmospheric pressure, high winds, and heavy rain. Tropical cyclones are associated with a variety of hazards. Damaging or destructive winds may reach speeds in excess of 300 km per hour in the most intense systems. The combination of wind-driven waves and the low pressure of a tropical cyclone can produce a coastal storm surge, an abnormal rise in sea level accompanying a tropical cyclone. The different terminologies of tropical cyclone. In the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, the North Atlantic Ocean, and the Eastern and Central North Pacific Ocean, it is called hurricane. In the Western North Pacific, it is called typhoon. In the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea, it is called cyclone. In Western South Pacific and Southeast Indian Ocean, it is called severe tropical cyclone. In the South Pacific and Indian Ocean, it is called tropical cyclone, regardless of the strength of the wind associated with the weather system. The only difference here is the location on where the storm occurs. Classification of tropical cyclones. Tropical depression. A tropical cyclone with maximum sustained surface winds of 38 miles per hour or less, also known as the weakest tropical cyclones. Tropical storm. If the depression intensifies with maximum sustained surface winds ranging 39 to 73 miles per hour, then the tropical cyclone becomes a tropical storm. Severe tropical storm. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed of 89 to 117 kilometers per hour or 48 to 63 knots. Typhoon. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed of 180 to 220 kilometers per hour. Super typhoon. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed exceeding 220 kilometers per hour. Extratropical cyclone. Extratropical cyclone, also called wave cyclone or mid-latitude cyclone, a type of storm system formed in middle or high latitudes in regions of large horizontal temperature variations called frontal zones. Tropical cyclone and extratropical cyclones structure, formation, and processes. Ingredients for tropical cyclone: pre-exiting weather disturbance, warm tropical oceans, moisture, and relatively light winds. Tropical cyclone structure. The main parts of a tropical cyclone are the eye wall, and the rain bands. Air spirals in toward the center in a counterclockwise pattern in the northern hemisphere, clockwise in the southern hemisphere, and out the top in the opposite direction. The eye. The hurricane's center is a relatively calm, generally clear area of sinking air and light winds that usually do not exceed 15 miles per hour and is typically 20 to 40 miles across. An eye will usually develop when the maximum sustained wind speeds go above 74 miles per hour and is the calmest part of the storm. Why does an eye form? The cause of eye formation is still not fully understood. It probably has to do with a combination of the conservation of angular momentum and centrifugal force. The conservation of angular momentum means these objects will spin faster as they move toward the center of circulation, so air increases its speed as it heads toward the center of the tropical cyclone. A A radar image of Hurricane Ike, September 13, 2008. The eye wall. This part is around the eye. Where the strong wind gets as close as it can is the eye wall. It consists of a ring of tall thunderstorms that produce heavy rains and usually the strongest winds. Changes in the structure of the eye and eye wall can cause changes in the wind speed, which is an indicator of the storm's intensity. The eye can grow or shrink in size, and double eye walls can form. In intense tropical cyclone, some of the outer rain bands may organize into an outer ring of thunderstorms that slowly moves inward and drops the inner eye wall of its needed moisture and momentum. During this phase, the tropical cyclone is weakening. Eventually, the outer eye wall replaces the inner one completely, and the storm can be the same intensity as it was previously or, in some cases, even stronger. Rain bands. Curved bands of clouds and thunderstorms that trail away from the eye wall in a spiral fashion. These bands are capable of producing heavy bursts of rain and wind, as well as tornadoes. There are sometimes gaps in between spiral rain bands where no rain or wind is found. In fact, if one were to travel between the outer edge of a hurricane to its center, one would normally progress from light rain and wind to dry and weak breeze, then back to increasingly heavier rainfall and stronger wind, over and over again with each period of rainfall and wind being more intense and lasting longer. Tropical cyclone size. Typical hurricane-strength tropical cyclones are about 300 miles wide, although they can vary considerably. Size is not necessarily an indication of hurricane intensity. Hurricane Andrew, 1992, the second most devastating hurricane to hit the United States next to Katrina in 2005, was a relatively small hurricane. The smallest storm was Tropical Storm Marco, on record by radius of winds from center, with gale force winds that only extended 11.5 miles radius when it struck Misantla, Mexico, on October 6, 2008. Typhoon Haiyan, known in the Philippines as Super Typhoon Yolanda, was one of the largest and strongest typhoons ever recorded. It had winds that reached 195 miles per hour. Extratropical cyclone. A cyclone for which the primary energy source is baroclinic. It can bring mild weather with a little rain and surface winds of 10 to 20 miles per hour, or they can be cold and dangerous with torrential rain and winds exceeding 74 miles per hour. Extratropical cyclones have cold air at their core and derive their energy from the release of potential energy when cold and warm air masses interact. These storms always have one or more fronts connected to them and occur over land or ocean. If the waters under the extratropical cyclone are at least 21 degrees Celsius, thunderstorm activity will gradually build inside the storm, moisten and water the lower levels. Over time, the core of the storm may gradually go from cold to warm, and the storm will start getting some of its energy from latent heat, which is the energy releases when water vapor that has evaporated from warm ocean waters condenses into liquid water. Global occurrence diagram of extratropical cyclone system. Effects of tropical cyclones. Economic effects. Agricultural impacts. The losses can be due to direct destruction of vegetation, crops, orchards, and livestock, or indirectly through long-term losses of soil fertility. Tropical fruit trees are among the most vulnerable crops to hurricane damage. Economic downturn. Fruit-bearing trees are uprooted, businesses are closed, establishments are damaged. increases wealth disparity. Properties are being ravaged by tropical cyclones every year. This causes extreme damages to wealth, pushing more people into poverty. Environmental effects. Erosion. Erosion caused by torrential rains may destroy vegetation and alter existing ecosystems. This can also damage beaches and dune ecosystems. Damage in estuaries and coastal habitats. Aquatic organisms may experience localized mortalities in association with high nutrient loading in subsequent periods of hypoxia. Long-term storm effects often include widespread alterations in the distribution, abundance, and movement of mobile aquatic species. Coral reefs. The waves generated by hurricanes are larger and more powerful than those experienced under normal conditions. These large waves can significantly impact coral reef systems. Coastal changes. Coastal changes caused by hurricanes include beach erosion, dune destruction, overwash, inundation and island breaching, marsh erosion, and coastal cliff erosion. The narrowing of the beaches and erosion of sand dunes leaves coastal areas more vulnerable to future storms and threatens coastal properties and tourism revenue in coastal countries. Forests and wetlands. Coastal forest ecosystems, including upland forests, mangrove swamps, hardwood hammocks, and forested wetlands, often sustain substantial damage from hurricane winds, which can uproot trees and completely defoliate vegetation. Bird populations. Cyclones can dramatically impact annual migration patterns and overall survival for migratory species. Strong hurricane winds can kill birds and/or carry them far beyond their normal range. Human impacts. Deaths. Tropical cyclones takes away the life of each and every human being. Thus, numerous deaths have been recorded. Human displacement. Tens to hundreds of millions are evacuated all around the world to prevent further deaths. This causes temporary hunger. Increase inequality. As cyclones have the power to ravage properties, this leads to people being displaced permanently, causing severe damage to equality. Cyclones create homeless people and can cause extreme poverty to some. Mental health. It is not just the physical effect the typhoon can bring. It can also affect our mental health. Emotional instability, stress reactions, loss of fear, sadness, anxiety, grief, and trauma, or post-traumatic stress disorder are the consequences of the survivors. The three most powerful tropical cyclones that entered the Philippines. Super Typhoon Goni, Super Typhoon Miranti, and Super Typhoon Haiyan, or known as Yolanda. Typhoon Goni. Typhoon Goni, known in the Philippines as Super Typhoon Rolly, was an extremely powerful tropical cyclone that made landfall as a Category 5 equivalent super typhoon on Catanduanes in the Philippines, with the maximum sustained winds of 225 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 280 kilometers per hour. At its peak strength on landfall on Catanduanes and Albay, Super Typhoon Goni caused widespread damage to high-risk structures and almost total damage to structures made of light materials in the highly exposed coastal areas. Many roof failures were observed in houses and industrial buildings. Typhoon Miranti. Typhoon Miranti, known in the Philippines as Typhoon Ferdy, was one of the most intense tropical cyclones on record. and one of the three Category 5 typhoons in the South China Sea, with the other ones being Pamela of 1954 and Ramasun in 2014. Super Typhoon Miranti, Ferdi, has maintained its intensity and is expected to pass through the Batanes group of islands on the morning of 14 September 2016. Currently, it has a maximum sustained winds of up to 215 km per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 250 km per hour, moving at 23 km per hour. Tropical Cyclone Warning Signal 4 has been issued for Batanes and Tropical Warning Signal number 3 for Babuyan Group of Islands. Typhoon Haiyan. Super Typhoon Haiyan, also called Typhoon Haiyan or Typhoon Yolanda, massive and highly destructive storm in the North Pacific Ocean that affected Palau, the Philippines, Vietnam, and China during early November 2013. The tropical cyclone produced high winds, coastal storm surges, heavy rains, and flooding in the land areas over which it passed. By far, the worst hit region was the central Philippines, where the storm produced widespread devastation and killed thousands of people. Many considered it to be the country's worst natural disaster. With maximum sustained winds at landfall there that measured 195 miles per hour, Haiyan was among the most powerful tropical cyclones ever recorded, if not the most powerful to strike land. This is the end of our entire presentation.